In the 1850s, Duneland was in the early stages of economic development. New railroad lines and heavily traveled roads attracted industry and business, as well as residents. Swedish immigrants came here hoping for work and an opportunity to establish a home and a family. Duneland's first Swedish immigrant families settled near the Bailey Homestead. Joel Wicker offered jobs at his sawmill there. According to some histories, Wicker hired a man to convince newly arrived Swedish immigrants in Chicago to come to Porter County. We do not know the details of the exchange between Wicker and these immigrants, but eventually, many of them bought land from Wicker and established their own homes and farms on what was once Bailey property. The first Duneland Swedes paid about $6 to $12 per acre and had to clear the land themselves. Even though it was backbreaking work, there was satisfaction in having land to call their own. These early Swedish homesteads became part of a new community called Baillytown. Baillytown was the largest Swedish community in the Duneland area. It stretched from East Portage Township to the town of Porter, and was known as Baillytown for about 100 years. Although Westchester Township remained home to the largest number of Swedes in Duneland, Baillytown was not the only area that Swedish immigrants settled. They also arrived in Liberty Township in the 1850s. According to early Augsburg Lutheran Church records, several church members lived in Salt Creek, which may have referred to the eastern portion of Portage Township, or the Salt Creek settlement on the Portage-Liberty Township line south of what became Crocker. Joel Wicker wasn't the only lumberman to draw immigrants here, though. Edwin Furness also hired Swedish laborers to work in his lumber business near the Westchester-Pine Township line. In addition to lumber and farming, Swedish immigrants in 1860 were working as shoemakers and coopers. These Swedes were more likely living in or near town and were often neighbors to other immigrants from Ireland, England, Germany, Prussia, and more. Several Swedish families also made their home in the Burdick area. Some still have descendants living there today. Most of these Swedes were farmers, like Frank Anderson, who came to America penniless and actually still owed half the price of his travel costs when he arrived. He worked hard and saved enough money to eventually marry and buy 93 acres of land in Jackson Township. By the 1890s, Baillytown was a well-established Swedish settlement, and dozens more Swedish families established homesteads in Liberty and Jackson Townships. Porter and Chesterton also had large Swedish populations living within the town lines close to their work as butchers, store owners, brickyard workers, and more. Because Swedish immigrants settled throughout Duneland and worked in many different industries, the history of Swedish immigration is a vital part of all of Duneland's history, not just Baillytown. Thank you for watching. Tune in next week for another video about Duneland's Swedish immigrants.